Tell us about what's going on with the BBC. So Owen does a story about the BBC. Well, I'll let you tell. You tell us what happened and what the reaction was.
Well, he had been working on this investigation for a while, and he reached out to us. It was an investigation into bias inside the BBC when it comes to their coverage of Gaza and the West Bank, and he had many BBC insiders who wanted to speak to him, but he knew that there was a high likelihood that he was going to get sued if he ran this piece. And we Jeremy and I and Oscar, we said, well, that's what we're here for. Like, that's why we were set up, so that there's an institution that is willing to publish stories that are fair and accurate and hard hitting, but that other people won't publish because of either fear of professional consequences or fear of litigation. Like, so if we don't do this, like we don't have a point. So we're like, let's do this. We lawyered it to hell, made sure it was as fair as it could possibly be. Everybody's got an opportunity to respond, publish it, and sure enough, he's getting sued by one of the editors who was named in the story, and the lawyers behind this editor are UK lawyers for Israel. So he's deep-pocketed attorneys on the other side of this, and they're only suing him, and they're only suing him in the UK. They're not suing us directly, because in the United States, if they tried to sue us in the United States, the case would be thrown right out immediately. But the UK libel laws are much crazier, so they feel like they have a chance to win there. But we had pledged, like, when we published it, if you get sued, we'll back you in court. So it's still winding its way through this Byzantine UK defamation hearing. I'm getting a real education in how interesting that is, and how set up it is for plaintiffs to be able to say that even if there isn't anything incorrect in the story, they still feel hurt by it and harmed by it, and so they then can still sue. I believe that we're going to win, and I think it'll be an important case to win. And I think it would be a very important case to lose as well, because if you can't say that the BBC is biased towards Israel when it comes to their reporting on Gaza and the West Bank, then you can't say anything, because that's the most straightforwardly true and obvious statement that I can even think of when it comes to the BBC's coverage.
Yeah, I'm curious about that case. That's another case where they are using a second weapon, and I want to explain that in a second. But in terms of the details of that case, what did Owen allege that BBC was doing? And is the BBC saying that's factually incorrect, outrageous, we never aired any of the things he's saying? Or are they saying it's relatively true, but our feelings were hurt?
The latter, for the most part. They're saying that it's inaccurate to say that they're biased. Like, that's the only inaccuracy that they are claiming exists in the 10,000 plus word story. Most people would not consider that to be a fact that is correct or incorrect. Most people would consider that to be a subjective opinion of, an informed subjective opinion. Like, he spoke with, more than a dozen, current and also many former BBC journalists who believed that their coverage, that what they were seeing on the ground, was not being reflected in the coverage because it was being distorted up the editorial process. Like, that was their belief, and that's what he reported. They're claiming that they are wrong, that is incorrect. So it's very interesting, because in the U.S., you can imagine that even today, like, that would be thrown out. They said, how on earth are you even bringing a case here? Like, this is what people say. This is their experience. They literally worked there. Their quote unquote lived experience. Yeah. You can disagree. You can have your say. You can be quoted saying you disagree. You can give examples of why it's not the case. But it's well within the rights of a publisher to publish these opinions. I believe that's true, not just in the US, but also in the UK. And I really hope that we get all the way to the end of this and are able to prove that.
So Ryan, I want to note two ironies here, and one maybe that it helps you, but let's see. One is they say, well, the editors of the BBC seem to have told these reporters to shut up about Israel. And now they're suing because they said, well, we should want you to shut up about us telling you to shut up about Israel. Like, that's a meta irony in there.
It is.
Yeah, the second one might be slightly helpful. They're suing you guys because they're saying they were defamed when you called them biased in favor of Israel. But they're suing you for being biased. So couldn't you just sue them back and say, if we're guilty, then you're guilty?
That's true. Yeah, how dare you suggest that our reporting is biased?
Yeah, I think you should do a countersuit because that way
it's outrageous.
Yeah, either way you win.
Yeah, right. Or fair point. Okay. I'm jumping right on the lawyer chain. The problem is every time you, as you know, talk to these lawyers, there goes another couple $1,000s. So this better work, brother. Otherwise, I'm hitting you up for the.
All right,
that didn't work. That'll be 2,500 jank.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.